My name is Michael Shoemate, and welcome to Logo Design Theory, how branding design really works. Much has been written and spoken about creativity. A lot of it is dry academic stuff, using big words and obscure concepts to describe this most intriguing thing called creativity. Let's talk about it. There's a fair bit of legend on the subject of creativity. Some of these ideas on creativity are as fanciful as frog feathers. I'm not claiming that frog feathers aren't real. Maybe they are. All I know is that all frogs of my acquaintance have no feathers. Likewise, many of these notions about creativity are quite different from my experiences. Sometimes it helps to define something by eliminating things that are confused with it. That exercise will be particularly useful in our discussion of creativity. Let's dispel some myths. Myth number 1. Creativity is doing whatever pops into your head. While it is true that there are brainstorming techniques that will do just that, elicit anything that pops into the participants' minds, this is not the basis of true creativity. Now, I'm not dismissing the value of spontaneity. It has its place, but it's not at the core, and we will come back to brainstorming and how it can be a useful tool in a later video. Myth number 2. Creativity is following your own rules. We live in a culture of elitism that reinforces this myth, but it is a myth. That attitude was alive and well even back in Renaissance times. It became an accepted practice then to give special license to supposedly creative people. It was a concept of celebrity status that considered these artistic folks somehow above the average and therefore exempt from the normal rules of conduct. Michelangelo was certainly one of the greatest artists of the Renaissance. Unfortunately, he really bought into this notion of artistic entitlement and milked it for all he was worth. A very talented artist contemporary of Michelangelo's named Raphael used to poke fun at him for his antisocial ways. Raphael even painted a large fresco for the Pope titled The School of Athens. The two persons in the center represent Plato and Aristotle. The face of Plato is a portrait of Leonardo da Vinci, who Raphael respected and honored. Throughout the painting are other great philosophers and thinkers. Raphael used the faces of some of his artist contemporaries that he admired for these figures. He even painted himself looking out in a little group in the far right side. Front and center in this fresco he put Michelangelo, sitting on a step and sulking. Raphael, who was an excellent artist himself, had very little patience with Michelangelo putting on artsy-fartsy airs. Unfortunately, we still uphold the same artists are different delusion today. It's a notion fostered by self-indulgent persons who want license to act badly. Sadly, it is well ingrained in our society, but it ought not to be. Creativity is no license to be self-centered or rude, any more than being wealthy or famous should give folks license to be boorish or inconsiderate. Myth number 3. Creativity just happens when you are inspired. The ancient Greeks believed that there were goddesses called the Muses, who gave inspiration to artists. The word inspire means to breathe in or to inhale, and the word inspiration originally meant to be breathed upon and breathe in what the gods breathed out. Many people today may not believe in literal muses, but they still insist that creativity involves waiting for inspiration to light upon their shoulders and give us ideas. The notion that the truly creative individual can only create when, quote, in the mood, end quote, is both undisciplined and untrue. It is the battle cry of the lazy and underachievers. The real creative geniuses of our world worked at their art, whether they were in the mood or not. Thomas Edison said, "Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration." Another myth bites the dust. Myth number 4. Creativity is just breaking the boundaries. This is the shallowest myth of all. Just breaking the boundaries serves little purpose in and of itself, unless it solves a problem. Myth number 5. Creativity needs to be new and different. This is perhaps the most widely believed myth, but it is indeed a myth. In the final analysis, creativity is the ability to solve problems. There, that was easy. That's what it's all about. Then why do so many people think creativity is about being different? When you have a problem, there are always constraints, limitations, and boundaries that come as part of the problem. An important aspect of creativity is having a clear vision to correctly perceive the problem, separate from the constraints around it. That vision will also see real limitations as separate and different from imagined limitations. Let's say you've got a jar with a metal lid on it you can't open. You could smash the jar to separate the lid from the jar. That's new and different, but it's hardly a creative solution, nor is it a suitable solution. One of the real constraints of this problem is that most of the time the jar needs to remain intact after it's opened, or its contents will be ruined if mixed with broken glass. A creative solution might be that you pry a bit around the edges of the lid to break the seal. You could run some hot water over the lid, but not the jar, to get the metal lid to expand a bit more than the jar and loosen up. You could wrap rubber bands around the lid and around the jar to increase the traction of your grip. Some people think that a solution must be new and different in order to be creative. How superficial. To be sure, many a creative solution requires a new approach, but new and different approach just for its own sake does not constitute a creative one. Being new and different is not the necessary ingredient. Solving the problem is what is necessary. If you stop and think about it, new and different has already been done, so don't worry about it. Those who seek vainly to be on the leading edge find out more often than not that they are on the bleeding edge. The underlying principles of branding design don't change. Those who cater to temporary swings in taste will find their work goes out of style quickly. Sadly, designers who think they can do anything that's new and different and call it an identity don't understand the nature of corporate identity at all. For more information, go to logodesigntheory.com. If you found this useful, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with anyone who needs to know about logo design.